Hey, it's Mark Slater here from Prime Spine Consulting. I'm so honored, lucky to have Alexander Shunnarah, personal injury trial attorney, here for this interview. Alexander and I go back over 20 years. When I was a practicing chiropractor in Birmingham, Alabama, I got introduced, our families knew each other, and we got introduced, and he was one of the first attorneys that I ever worked with in personal injury. So, Alexander, thank you so much for doing this interview with me.
Man, it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
I'm glad in the last few months, this year, we've been able to kind of like circle the wagons again. And,
yeah.
It's been good spending some time with you in the last 6 months.
Oh, I really do appreciate it. So,
yes, sir.
What I want to know is, I mean, you've got 2,500 billboards. You're in 23 cities. Did I miss one?
Give or take.
Give or take, yeah.
We really are a nationwide firm. I mean, that's just the truth.
Yeah.
But, we have, I think, physical locations somewhere in the 25 building range in like 15, 17 states.
It's amazing. So tell me how a doctor can reach out to you, initiate a conversation, and start a relationship with your gigantic firm. How would you recommend they just go about that?
Obviously we are a big firm. And so I would think the best way would be, honestly, let's just cut through all the red tape, and why don't I just give my phone number out, and let's just make it as simple as just a text message.
You give it out on social media?
Yeah, I give it out on. I don't have anything to hide. I mean, I go to all these. You may find this funny. I go to all these lawyer events, and a lot of doctor events, and it's like I'll hear people talking sometimes, and they're like, sometimes to me, complaining a little bit about like the buffer. And of course, I can't help myself after listening to it for about 5 or 10 minutes. And it's like, I think there's a direct correlation between inconvenience and making money. So with that being said, I know there is a direct correlation between inconvenience and making money. So I am very transparent. And I think if a doctor wants to talk to me and it's about doing business,
yep,
and obviously helping me, and maybe I can help them. My number is
you can go ahead and
205-243-5297. 205-243-5297. It's been my number for 20 years. It's been good to me. It was actually my first free marketing number, because that's 205-243-LAWS, 243 laws. That was way a long time ago when there wasn't even T-Mobile, and it's now T-Mobile, and now I've switched to Verizon, so my phone works everywhere. But just if you'll text me and say, hey, I'm Dr. So-and-so, I'd love to talk business with you, I'm in this city, please call me. I promise you within 24 hours, I will call you.
That's pretty strong. I mean, I know a lot of attorneys, they're not responsive like that.
I am definitely responsive.
That's pretty good. Well, when these chiropractors reach out to you, like, what are maybe 2 or 3 questions that you ask them before deciding if, how do you get them to pass the smell test in your
That's
your
a good
eyes?
question. I would say, look, obviously it's always much, much easier if a chiropractic physician has been in the personal injury space, because then they're aware of kind of how the ecosystem works between personal injury lawyers and chiropractic physicians. But if they're not, I'm more than welcome to try to explain that to them. Obviously, there's some key points. Most of the chiropractic physicians that we work with are very open to working with PI lawyers because of the way the chiropractic industry has kind of become, with healthcare benefits, and actually pretty much every doctor in America now, not just chiropractic physicians,
getting hammered by insurance.
Have been hammered by insurance to the point where, 10 or 15 years ago, I couldn't get a neurosurgeon to speak to me, but now they're banging my door down. Or an orthopedic surgeon.
Because they'll work on a lien or
they'll work on a lien, or they'll in some cases, we get some cash funding for them, and they'll actually get paid the same rate that Blue Cross would have paid them or somebody. And they're like, all right, I get my money, you get the surgery. My client will get funded by that company. It could be a medical, it could be anybody.
Yeah.
A company, funding company. Look, there's no shortage of cash when you've got a good injury claim or a disc that's protruding, bulging, herniated, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think it's not fair that the insurance companies get to save millions and millions of dollars a year because, healthcare is, one, sorry, in general, and two, that they, pretty much, I have an orthopedic friend who now has to do 5 surgeries that he only and gets the same pay that he used to get for one.
One PI case surgery is equivalent to
5 surgeries now.
5 commercial insurance surgeries. Yeah.
Yeah, what I'm saying is if you hear him say it, he's having to do 5 times the work he used to for the same amount of pay.
I hear that too. Yeah.
So I don't know if that's true. I'm not an orthopedic surgeon. I don't know what he pays. But.
What are some red flags? Doctors, and not just chiropractors, but orthopedic surgeons, interventional pain doctors, and even physical therapists reach out to you for personal injury work. They want a relationship with you. What are some red flags that you see that make you say, you know what, I don't know that this is going to be a good fit for us?
Most of the red flags, you don't really see the red flags because, well, let me answer your question. If someone, I said I would talk to them, but if someone is not at least has a base foundation or to some degree familiar with the space, it's difficult for me to take the time where I have to bring them from ground zero to just baseline.
Yeah,
that would be a red flag. And then some of the other red flags is when they don't have a good back office. They're the chiropractic physician, I'm the lawyer. But, you have to have a good back office. We've got to get our medical records,
Right.
And in a timely fashion.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. Do you like medical offices or chiropractic offices that have a dedicated non-medical person, almost like a marketing liaison, that you can call and almost use as your quasi-employee to say, hey, I need records for Mrs. Jones, or has Mr. Smith been to his appointments as scheduled over the past 30 days? Do you prefer offices that have somebody like that?
I would say that is definitely a plus, right? And I would say that there's a firm, we're here in Atlanta, and say, I want to do business with everybody, but Arrowhead is a big example of a big chiropractic, firm here. They've got their infrastructure together. They've got all the pieces in place to, facilitate things, and obviously they understand the ecosystem. But I think having that one dedicated person, we actually have it at our firm. I've nicknamed him the troubleshooter.
Okay.
If there's a
that's
problem,
a new one.
Yeah, I named him the troubleshooter. I think on the website, even though I own the company, my operations person says that it has to be more diplomatic.
Yeah.
But I forgot the title she gave him, but I call him the troubleshooter. So if there's a problem with a doctor, if there's a problem with a client, if there's a problem with anything, he fixes it.
Got it. Yeah. So you like having those non-medical people that you can rely on to get whatever you need from that office quickly.
Yeah, or even if they're available, where we can send them a message for suggestions, and then they can speak to the staff or the doctor himself.
Yeah, makes sense.
Or like in states where, and I have to be very respectful how I say this, but in some states, it's good when we know what the limits are.
Of course, that's right,
And
especially for surgery.
We want to share that with a doctor, who understands it's a commercial vehicle. I think it's important that the treating physician understand it's a commercial vehicle. Nothing unethical, but if there is, extended whatever is there to make sure that we don't quickly settle that case, and we'll be a little bit more patient to make sure that the client is reach maximum medical improvement. And then we've got the diagnostic test, because I truly believe in my heart of hearts, and I mean this, and it sounds kind of monetarily, but I don't. I believe it's malpractice for a lawyer to settle a car accident case without some diagnostic MRIs, especially if it's at least, moderate damage.
Sure.
If there's a scratch bumper, let's roll the dice.
You're talking about property damage.
Property damage.
Yeah.
But, if you look at all the studies, and legitimate studies, it doesn't take a tremendous amount of gravitational forces to push someone over that.
Yeah.
And you got to remember, the whole eggshell you learn the first day in law school, you take the plaintiff as you find them. And that gets lost on the insurance companies, but it doesn't get lost on trial attorneys.
Yeah.
And you take the plaintiff as you find them.
Expound on that.
Well, I mean, if you've got someone who already had a history of, a bulging disc, but then it pushes that bulging disc over to
the trauma
to us.
Prolapse disc or
prolapse, or making it a surgical situation, or if there's a history of that disc, but then the symptoms were always asymptomatic, but now they're waking up every morning and they're symptomatic and they can't feel their legs or the pain is shooting down. Well, half their trunk was missing last week or last month. Maybe there's a direct correlation to that. That's the argument we're going to be making.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
Based on the picture, based on that MRI, based on this MRI, I can sell it.
Yeah. So we're at this summit. We're learning mostly how lawyers get business digitally.
Right.
Like, attorneys are signing up clients on their phone.
That's right.
So my question is, let's take the state of Alabama. Obviously, you've been there for 20 years. Your billboards are all over. Let's say somebody has an accident and they live in Andalusia, Alabama.
Right.
And you don't know a doctor to send them there, what is your process? How do you figure out, how can I get this particular client care if they live in Andalusia and I don't have a relationship there?
Yeah, I tell you, it can be very, very challenging. And that's not something that we have completely solved, because with the size of our law firm, you would be surprised. We end up, representing people sometimes that live in the middle of nowhere. So there are clients sometimes who are going to have to track about 30 miles. And so we're resourceful. So we may send them a gas card, or we may do whatever is necessary to try to encourage them to get to the doctor. Obviously, they understand, unfortunately, I didn't create the legal system or the insurance system. And if, without medical records and documentation, it's really hard to show that they're injured. And if I say this one more time to a client, I don't know of any vernacular I've used more than this. You can't sit at home and just chew aspirin and Advil and expect me to get you any money.
Right.
It just doesn't correlate.
So the value of the case is related to their medical bills, medical records.
100%.
It's as simple as that.
It's just, in the eyes of an insurance company.
Well, yeah.
Have we won some cases just on pain and suffering and emotional distress? Sure. Does it happen very often? Not too often.
It's the exception. It's not the rule.
It's the exception.
Yeah. So, in just finishing up, and by the way, thank you so much again for taking the time. I know you're very busy. What would you recommend to not only chiropractors, but interventional pain doctors, physical therapists that want to get into personal injury? What do you recommend they do to create relationships?
Obviously, Mark can help y'all with this, and he's great at what he does. It's been interesting that each state has different advertising rules for chiropractic physicians.
Yep.
And where I think I can help you is we're pretty resourceful at getting the data and the information of potential clients in those areas. There's the whole thing, but under the law, in each municipality, public accident reports are public information under the law. Now, there is a case that they hide behind because they're just lazy and they don't want to give them up. And that case was predicated on a case that there was a doctor and someone was trying to kill him, but then he was in a car accident, and it was true. There was like a hit on him, and it turned into this famous case that basically said, well, that in that situation, that he was afraid if someone could pull his police report, it could be the guy that was trying to kill him. I know this is crazy, and then they would know where he lived and came and killed him. And so it went all the way. And so in that situation, that public, the accident report was not deemed public information. But let's fast forward. That's what municipalities try to hide behind. But for most municipalities, depending on the city that you live in, It's just people just don't know how to access that information. So if I was a chiropractic physician and I was interested in getting into the personal injury space, I think we can help y'all access how to get that information, or at least tell you how to get it. It's legal, so I mean, it's not like it's illegal. And then, depending on what your advertising rules is, if they say that you can call, I would be calling them up and saying, "Hey, Mrs. Jenkins, this is John at John's Chiropractic. I mean, I'm sorry to hear about your accident. Why don't you come in today?" Or if it says, well, you can text them and you can email them. I mean, the food is right there to just bring it in.
Right.
And then when you get it, call me.
But would you agree that this business, this industry, it's relationship driven?
100%.
100%. So
100%.
Give me the doctor with more relationships with PI attorneys, urgent cares, general practitioners, primary care doctors. Would you say they're probably going to have the biggest practices in town?
Yeah, I would just say, look, I mean, there is a proven method on how to be successful as a chiropractic physician in the personal injury space, no doubt. But it's contingent on them having the infrastructure, them having the interest and the passion to want to really build that. But then the second most important component is having the right lawyer that is actually going to have the ability to maximize and monetize that claim. Because I'm being very respectful. I mean, the client got them being well is the most important thing. But if you have $4,000 or $5,000 worth of medical services or chiropractic services, and you're working on an LOP, well, you're not going to get paid on that until a good lawyer or a good law firm is going to turn that and resolve that case for you, and then pay you fairly, and make sure there's enough money to pay the client, obviously.
Yeah.
And so it's all relationship based.
Right, but you go to trial. In other words, you don't mill everything out. If you have a good case and there's clear liability on the other side, you're a trial attorney.
We are, and I'm very proud of this. I mean, we are one of the best trial law firms in the country, and we understand the difference between connective tissue injuries in those cases and how they need to be tried, when they need to be tried. We're very well aware of the fact that 9 out of 10 accidents are with personal vehicles and stay in the connective tissue space. So obviously we have to have a team for that. But then at the same time, obviously we are geared to handle the catastrophic type cases too. And as most trial lawyers, they're a lot more exciting.
Right.
Speaking about those in a setting than talking about a connective tissue injury claim. But 9 out of 10 are connective tissue injury claims. And so, and I want to say this, and I appreciate the platform, is like insurance companies right now, and the best way to put this is, and I mean this and I understand this better than anybody in the country. In 2010, Allstate hired McKinsey, and they wrote this study. They paid them $30 million. And the name of the study is called From Good Hands to Boxing Gloves. That study, is on the black market now.
Okay.
Obviously, I got a copy of it. And it was one of the most interesting reads I've ever seen. And the bottom line is, I can talk to you about it forever, but the bottom line is what they're trying to do is to eradicate soft tissue injury cases or connective tissue injury. That's what they're really trying to, ultimately that's the goal. And McKinsey gave them this study on how to do that. And it has a lot to do with the lawyers and the medical providers, and it's more like we're going to defend, we're going to deny, we're going to delay, we're going to frustrate.
The 3 Ds.
Because if you think about this historically, lawyers were able to advertise with Bates versus Arizona back in '77, and just fast forward this 1980. Here came all the TV lawyers. Let's call it our ability under the First Amendment to advertise with legal services. And regardless of what the messaging is, I know there's a lot of different personalities, but there's probably no one in America who doesn't know that there's a connection between an accident case and potentially getting paid money from an insurance company. and then hence the entire, I don't know the history of the chiropractic world, but hence an entire ecosystem of medical providers became a part of that, right? Because now the lawyers were getting the cases and educating the clients, and then they made relationships with all the doctors, chiropractic physicians, and then now you've got pretty much every kind of medical provider, and then you've got every kind of MRI facility. And so there's an entire ecosystem predicated on that. But, and Allstate knew that, and the insurance companies knew it. And it was pretty funny, really. What they basically said is, McKinsey basically told the insurance companies, or Allstate specifically, like, stop feeding the monster. You're the dummies that are paying the lawyers. And the lawyers are continuing to advertise. And the lawyers they're not dumb either. They've created this ecosystem. They've learned how to answer the phone properly, hire intake centers, have great people who can order medical records in a timely fashion, put together demands, send them out, and move these cases like a mill, because it did become a mill. But they had also said that the weaknesses are they don't have any trial lawyers. Well, it's not that they didn't have trial lawyers. They didn't need trial lawyers because the insurance companies were paying 3 times medical bills or 4 times medical bills.
That was the old adage back
They didn't need it.
Right.
And so now it's changed between 2010 and 2020. But the good firms like ourselves saw that wave coming, understood that way, and have adjusted to what the insurance companies are doing. And so now we understand. But they want to frustrate the client, right? Because back in the old days, and I know I'm being funny, you represented a client, you did it in 6 or 8 months, and there's still good markets that you can do that in, Atlanta being one for sure. But and John would go tell Billy, man, I was in a wreck, and look, I went to see Dr. So-and-so, he was great, and then I hired Alex, and man, I got paid. Well, that means next time he was in a wreck, he was doing it. So they're trying, and they're doing a very good job of it. They're trying through legislation and through frustration and through defending, denying, delaying, and trying these cases where next time John is in a wreck, he's like, hey, I had to wait a couple years and I didn't get but a few grand. And because they want people not to hire lawyers or go see doctors.
Right.
So we have to fight the fight.
Yeah, those insurance companies are going to call you a day or two after the accident and offer you money and hope you take it.
And pull up to your house with a checkbook and a good salesperson. And they do a very, very good job of doing that.
For sure.
Really good job.
Yeah. So you're always looking for new business. You're always open to talking to new doctors, and all they got to do is take that first step and just call you and put them on the map.
Listen, man, just text me, 24 hours, I'll call you back.
That's awesome. Most doctors don't have the money to market like attorneys do. Attorneys, you get a $100,000 settlement. That chiropractic bill is $5,000. The most they could get is $5,000. So unattached cases for chiropractors are like gold, because if they send you that case, you don't have an acquisition cost, right? However they got to your office. So that's why chiropractors need multiple attorneys to work with, because you guys just dominate the marketing.
Yeah, I would say for the most part that it is state by state.
Yeah.
I would say, in my home state, Alabama, that is 100% accurate. That there is, and I use that word, there is no, all the doctors there are contingent on the lawyers sending them business. And so the smart ones kind of obviously reach out to the lawyers who can send the business and try to befriend them and then try to get good legal services, chiropractic services and all the things necessary. And I really don't know how the other ones are even making a living.
You talking about attorneys or doctors?
Doctors.
Not doing PI. Yeah. I agree with you. Well, they're seeing 200 people, 300 people a week.
Yeah, I don't know how they're making it.
At a lower average.
Yeah, yes, sir. I don't.
Time of service.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And then in terms of, there's some states where, Atlanta being one of them, and historically speaking, it may be because of the big chiropractic school was here. It may have a little bit to do with that you actually can know what the limits are here. It probably has a lot to do with there's no collateral source here, and which is a big advantage in a state like Georgia when the actual retail meds, can be put on a chalkboard. Bigger cities like Dallas, kind of like Atlanta, but just depending on where you are, where your office is. But we had talked about it earlier. I think I can help you guys figure out how to get unattached cases.
That's important.
And
so that you can reciprocate with some attorneys that send you cases.
That's right. We can at least try to lead you in the right direction. Preferably, we'd like to be the ones who receive those unattached cases, and in return send you cases.
Yeah, chiropractors like when attorneys are transparent with them, especially when they're asking to cut bills. These attorneys, hey, I know your bill is $5,000. We want to get this settled. You take $3,500.
Right.
Maybe you'll accept that. But if it's like a 50% cut, the chiropractor is going to say, listen, you're asking me to make a business decision.
Yeah. And I would say this, look, nationally, and I don't want to offend any chiropractic physician, but nationally, it is about a 50% cut. However, being respectful, it works both ways. If it is an unattached, in all fairness to the attorneys,
you're doing all the marketing.
In all fairness to the attorneys, if it is a case where an attorney who markets that, and the average these days nationally is honestly, and we're very good at what we do, but the lowest you're going to get a cost per acquisition of a personal injury claim is about $1,500.
Exactly.
The national average is about $2,000.
That's right.
So
when you send that patient,
so when I send that patient to that person,
you're $2,000 in the hole.
I'm $2,000 in the hole, and that chiropractic physician or any medical doctor, I've just basically handed him a free case.
That's right.
Something that he didn't have to market for, and that's tremendous value. And if anybody doesn't believe that, they're being foolish, because I don't know any other business in the world that gets clients for free.
That's right. I mean, you just said it in this. I'm not saying anything you just haven't espoused to everyone. You spend $2 million a year in marketing.
A month.
I'm sorry. $24 million a year, $2 million a month. I'm sorry.
Yes,
you're absolutely correct. So yeah, you have a big acquisition cost per client.
Right.
So when you send that doctor, that client, that chiropractor or doctor, interventional pain, whatever he is, got a free case.
No doubt. I mean, yeah, and that is just that's huge, and it's the same thing. I recognize when a chiropractic physician sends me a case that he has a cost in that case, and either he had a marketing cost, but I know that case cost him something. Now, it could even be a case that a friend of his referred to him, but you know what? That case still cost him something. All that time he spent with that friend, that's money. Time is money. He had built a friendship, a trust. Who knows what
golf
he did?
Games,
whatever it was.
Yeah.
So there's nothing for free. Anytime, a case is either, the lawyers coming to the doctors or the doctors coming to the lawyers. I mean, real attorneys like myself understand that's a gift one way or the other. And so the best relationships are when you're working with somebody who could reciprocate, in a lot of markets, and they keep tallying score. Atlanta being one of them. Yeah. Like, it is the most quid pro quo city in the history of the world here. Like, if I send or recommend the chiropractic services to a person, they darn well have to recommend my legal services back. And if it's the other way around, if they send me one within 2 days, they're like, Alex, I sent you Mrs. Jones on Tuesday. It's Thursday. I was like, hey, just give me a chance. But I will say in cities like Atlanta.
Aren't you a magician? Can't pull it out of your hat?
I'm just telling you, everybody keeps score in Atlanta.
Yeah.
But that's fine. I understand the lay of the land. Now in Alabama, it's a lot different, right? Nobody gets attached cases. So the lawyers are.
You're saying nobody gets unattached cases?
No medical providers get unattached cases.
Okay.
So they understand that we're sending them a client, and in exchange, they understand that they need to work with us on our bill.
Yeah.
And that's their way of paying us back, and then to get the cases settled, and then obviously getting the bills to us in a timely fashion. Having the money to hire that person we were talking about earlier to make the transition a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Or, it just can't be, we're going to feed you, we're going to send you, 50 cases a month, and you're going to give us not good service, not get our records to us in a timely fashion, not have the people in place, and then and then on top of that, if whatever, if we send them, whatever.
Yeah, they got to keep their side of the street.
$200,000 a year, and it's just a one-way street, and that won't last long.
Right, that's right. Well, let me ask you this, and just finishing up here.
All being fair,
Yeah. Well, and about that all being fair, you take a chiropractor and you look at his notes versus chiropractor A and chiropractor B. Chiropractor B, his notes and documentation is a lot better than chiropractor A.
It's a big difference.
Yeah, so if chiropractor B, maybe he's not sending you some unattached cases, but you know that his records and his note taking is so much far superior than chiropractic A, who may have sent you 5 unattached cases. What's your process there? What are your thoughts on that?
Look, we're fortunate enough we get enough cases where we can still feed A.
Well, just your personal. How about just your personal opinion on that?
I mean, now for one case there isn't, but like over time, I would value the chiropractor B for sure. The one who
better notes.
Yeah, the better notes, better documentation. And I'll tell you what we really value too is knowing that having such a great relationship with our chiropractic physicians or our medical providers in general, that when clients are not showing up, that they alert us immediately.
You got to be, because you'll call them, they'll answer your call,
right?
Because you're controlling the money.
That's right.
They may not answer the doctor's call because I got to go to the doctor.
Like there has to be, so we can jump on the phone immediately and say, look, you're basically telling them they're ruining their case.
Yeah, people that are hurt go to the doctor.
People that are hurt go to the doctor. And once again, sitting down with them and explaining to them, unfortunately, it's very difficult for us in a court of law, or obviously speaking to a claims and representative adjuster, to justify, all this sporadic treatment.
Gaps in care.
Yeah, absent care. If you can't just show up once every 2 weeks,
No.
You're not serious about it. You're not getting any better.
It's hard to explain that away.
The chiropractic physicians put this protocol in place. It's scientifically proven that if you do these things, you're going to get better. And you're claiming your back still hurts, that's because, or your neck, or whatever your problems are, it's because you've been 4 times in a month.
Right.
It doesn't work like that.
That's right.
It's kind of like working out twice a month. You ain't going to get too many results.
Nope. Repetition and momentum are the key with chiropractic. So, all right, Alexander. Again, thank you so much for doing this interview. Tremendous value you added to my clients, people watching this video. Call Alexander Shunnarah, because I worked with this guy 20 years ago, always treated me right, and I just value your time, and thank you so much for doing this. I'm very grateful.
And once again, look, we value relationships, long-term relationships. We want to do business with people that want to do business with us. We want to provide top legal services to the clients. We want to maximize and monetize those claims, and at the same time, we just like to be the best at what we do, and I set the standard as high as possible and hold my lawyers to it also. But I'm very approachable if there's ever a problem. Like I said, you guys have my cell number.
I use it. That's how this happened.
205-243-5297. Text me.
Call Alexander Shunnarah, everyone. Thanks for doing this interview again, Alexander. I do appreciate the time, man.
Appreciate it.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.